but basically is way back in university. I would not say that I had an outright plan on how my life was going to go, but I had sort of like a clear vision of what I wanted, right? Growing up, I already knew that there was something very special about me, something special God has put in me. And this is to say to every woman here that every person here, that there's actually something special everyone has.
Yeah.
There is a special purpose that you as a person have. And me, I already knew that from when I was growing up, that there's something special. I didn't know what it was, really. I didn't know what it was, but then I knew that there was something special about me and something special that God wants me to achieve. So right from when I was in university, I tried to ensure that in that particular university setting that I was going to make the most of what I had. I was going to make the most of it. I was going to make the most of school. I wasn't just going to go to school. Yes, I'm a very, very serious, I can be a very serious person. I'm very focused and all. But then I was going to enjoy every bit and pieces of that particular setting. And so I ensured that I engaged in things that sparked my soul, things that sparked my spirit, even things that scared me. I ensured that even things that were challenging, I engaged in them. I tried to participate in debate. I participated in quizzes. I participated in paper presentations. I tried to let my voice to be heard, even when it was scary, even when I failed sometimes, right? I'll learn lessons from it, but I will still try again. I'll learn lessons from it and then I'll apply it to the next process. I'll apply it to the next stage. I'll apply it to the next opportunity. So I made sure that I engaged in so many things. I enjoyed school. Oh my goodness. Like I enjoyed everything about university. I was in the school choir. I was in the university choir. I joined the journalism club. In fact, I even ran for president of my department at some point, even though I lost. But then looking back, I I realized that I will do all of these things again, both the ones that were really challenging, even the ones I failed at, because especially the ones I failed at made me learn so many cogent lessons that actually helped me through my life, and it's still helping me till this moment.
Wow.
So once I was done with university, and with all that I've learned from school, I took it with me, and I served with a tech firm. In that tech firm, I was working with a unit, the business development, marketing, and communications unit. And it will surprise you to know that this was completely unrelated with what I studied in school. For context, I studied educational management with economics in school. So it was completely different, right? So I had two options. I could have as well just, done the barest minimum, just gone with the flow. Well, I don't really have interest in tech. I did not even study anything that had to do with it, right? Or with branding and marketing and all of that. But then I tried to learn all that I could learn. I realized that I was in this particular space for a reason. I was meant to learn something. God put me in this space for a reason. And so I'm going to try my best. I'm going to try my possible best to get all that I can get from that space. And so we were taught how to, manage blogs. We were taught how to create company brochures, company materials, and all of that, how to even develop a blog. And from that experience, I was able to create a personal blog for myself, right? The Folabomi blog. And this started as a hobby. It was just a hobby. I've always had a flair for fashion and, lifestyle. And I started talking to people about fashion on the blog. And it will surprise you to know that this blog that started out as a hobby in 2014 is now the official company website for my business, right? So every space that I have found myself, I've learned to take out lessons from it. I've learned to maximize all that I can get from that particular space to be able to apply more to where I am and where I'm going.
Wow. I mean, that's insightful. But I want to ask you another question. All through this period you've talked about, you were single, right? Yeah, you were single. So you know where I'm going. I'm asking you this question because you know, the way the typical or the average Nigerian lady is raised, especially in this generation that we are in, not the one that we are in. You know, we're raised to be fit for marriage. We are raised to be, you know, to be fit for some certain kind of, you know, activities. So what would you say to, you know, single ladies here right now on what would you say with your own journey and your own experience, how you rightly positioned yourself to be able to maximize the opportunities that came your way as a single person? What will you say to any single person listening to you at the moment on how to do, not, it might not be exactly the same thing you did, but how to sight and recognize opportunities when they come your way and to grab them and not just be limited by the fact that, oh, I don't need that. Imagine you talking about how you went into tech, even though you had no prior background in tech, but you saw that opportunity, you grabbed it. You know, a lady can sit down and be like, oh, tech, I don't even know anything. Please, 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 I'm not doing. Let me just do what I came here to do and go. But, you know, I want you to talk a little bit to single ladies listening to us right now who would, you know, meet themselves in similar situations and positions or in life, in their day-to-day activities. Tell them how to, you know, sight opportunities, grab them and maximize them so they don't miss out on something that might, you know, blow up to be like yours have blown up to be something massive today. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Like I mentioned earlier, there is always a purpose for everyone, and there is always a purpose for wherever stage you find yourself. So life is in stages. There are different stages for everyone, and there are different timing for everyone's life too. While I was single, I actually absolutely totally enjoyed my being single, right? When I was done with NYSC, I didn't even find a job immediately. And I was still single then. I could have as well just, you know, wallowed in self-pity. I was looking for a job and everything, and it was really hard getting a job. We all know how Nigeria is, right? But instead of, you know, just whiling away time, I try to apply myself to something. I'm one for always trying to keep being engaged. I like to be engaged, especially when I was single. I was always engaged. I was always engaged with something profitable. So I applied myself, and I learned the skill, which is the skill of tailoring. And it was as if the universe knew, or heaven knew, that, you know, I was keeping myself busy. Immediately I was done learning, I got a job, right? So I feel like as a single lady, one should always keep oneself engaged, which is what I did. I was always engaged. I was always trying to learn something new. I was always trying to, you know, do something new. And because I was always trying to get more knowledge, I was always trying to apply myself, be of service, serve. I realized that I was content. I was fulfilled. I was happy. I wasn't, to be honest, like I wasn't eager to get married. Not because I didn't think that I would not eventually get married. I knew I was going to get married, but I wanted to enjoy my time being single, right? I felt complete alone, right? I felt happy. I felt fulfilled. I felt very content. And when it was time that God, who has always, you know, ordered all my decisions and all my paths, realized that, okay, it's time for you to not be alone again. It's time for you to find someone that would complement you and make your already amazing self even more amazing, right? That was when I decided to take the step to get married. And I was very fortunate to find someone that complimented me. And this is just to reemphasize the fact that I did not necessarily have to depend on this person to make me happy. I did not have to depend on this person to make my life fulfilled, right? Because I ensure that I was always engaged. I was always trying to make an impact wherever I found myself. Now, I mentioned before that I enjoyed singlehood. It was a stage. I absolutely enjoyed it. Now, that stage is over. I've moved on to the next stage, and I intend to enjoy this stage of being married. And at God's perfect timing, when I become a mother, I will enjoy the stage of motherhood. This is just to state that at every stage we find ourselves, we have to make the most of all the stages. Look for opportunities, find the opportunities, even in the challenges, even in times when things don't seem to go our way, even in times when it seems like, oh, I wanted this, but I'm not getting it. Don't dwell on things that are out of your control. Dwell on things that are within your control. Be thankful for what you have, and you will just see that things are falling in place.
Awesome. Before I have one last question for you, before I let you be for a while. But before I ask the question, please share the link to your friends. Let's get more people here. So difficult for me to do sharing right now because I'm not in my comfort zone. I'm not at home. So I'm using my phone to, for the camera for myself. So I can't even do nothing. So please try as much as possible. We're 15 on here. We can be more, we can be more. We've hit, 30, 40 in our Zoom sessions before. Please, let's do this. Let's share the links, and get more people to join us. This conversation we're going to have here today is going to be very insightful. I promise you, you don't want your friends and family members to miss out on this. Thank you so much. Back to you, Toluwale. I want to, I'm very certain, I'm very sure that because you found yourself even while you were single, at the time it got to the point of choosing a life partner, what can you say were the benefits or the advantages, you found in knowing, you're already at the point where you already knew what you wanted. You knew what God had, at least a picture of what God had in plan for you. You knew what you did not want for yourself, even in marriage. At that point, you knew what you were deserving of. You knew you could easily cite someone who would not fit into the plan God has already shown you. So what would you say to a single person listening to you right now, who is at the point of maybe choosing a life partner and hasn't even, doesn't even know what to do with herself? She doesn't even know, what, if you ask her a question, and just say, so what do you think is your life plan? What do you want to do? And they might just answer you and say, yeah, I'm working in so place, this. Okay, what do you want for yourself? Because for me, I've come to a conclusion, personally, I might be wrong, that one of the problem we face in marriages today, especially for women, is because at the point we made the decision of marriage, we didn't even know what we wanted for ourselves. So it was easy for us to just see somebody and just think, oh, this person is fine, he's handsome, he's rich, he has a good job. I think he's okay. I can just get married to him. So we see everything on the surface and think, okay, this is a good choice. And we just make the choice. And then when we begin to grow in marriage, we realize that we have a lot of, incompatibilities. Or maybe your husband is looking at you and saying, you can't do this, you can't do that. You can't go for these meetings. You can't appear in this kind of, session. I know people who have approached, to come and speak in sessions like this, and they're like, they wouldn't because of personal reasons. And it's very understandable because, you cannot do things when you don't get some certain type of permission. So, and they feel limited or caged or all of these things. So I'm saying all of these things to tell you, to have an idea of what you would say to single ladies who are at the point of making this kind of decision. And also the myth where people say, when you're a successful woman, a man, especially in Nigeria, the myth of, well, when you're a successful woman, when you're doing something for yourself already, men might not want to, some certain type of men might not want to marry you. Because I remember when I was single, and God bless our parents, and I asked my parents one time, how can I just returned back to the country and I was trying to get him to buy me a car. And I was like, Daddy, I need a car now. I cannot come back from the abroad and be, just walking around and he would say, is this not the person that just returned from abroad? And my father was like, it's not a problem to buy you a car. But if you now start driving a car in this Nigeria, who's going to marry you? And as painful, and you would think that maybe my dad is a typical, like my dad is not a typical, my dad is a professor, well-read, you know, he's educated, and you hear him say things like that, and you are surprised, like, he did not get me a car, to be honest. He later did not buy me the car because of his own reasons. So what would you say to single ladies who are limited by what the society say, or what the society expects of you as a lady, especially when you probably got into the age of marriage and you're looking at getting a life partner? What would you say to them? Is it keep pursuing your dreams, keep doing what you're doing, you know, keep doing what you're doing, irrespective of what you're going through? I know you've already talked about it, but I just want, you know, from your own experience, if there's something you can share to single ladies right here who would love to know how they can just keep being in the waiting room and achieving their goals.
Thank you so much for that. Okay, so first, I would like to say that every one of us, we have to know who we are. We have to understand who we are. We have to know our values. We have to understand our values. Because if you don't even know your own value, what do you expect from your life partner, right? And for you to know and understand the kind of value, and for you to build good values for yourself, that is when you can be able to identify similar values in the person that you're looking out for.
Yeah,
so right. I think that is so important, because if you don't know who you are, if you can't say this is who I am, and you are not even, you can't identify yourself to something, you can't stand for something, you won't know how to, you know, you fall for anything. Basically, they're saying that if you don't stand for something, you fall for anything. So if you don't stand for something, whoever comes your way is okay, because you are just looking for someone to get married to, right? So first and foremost, I would say have values, know who you are, know what you stand for, and it will be easy for you to be able to identify the person with who your values will align with, right? Now, don't be a mediocre. Like, you have to develop yourself. You have to build yourself. Don't just say, yes, where I am at is fine, what I know is fine. No, you have to grow. You have to stretch yourself. You have to learn. You have to apply yourself, right? You have to serve. You have to serve. You have to keep learning. You have to stretch, basically. So don't be a mediocre. Then look for goals and objectives. Like you mentioned, have a plan through God's help, of course. Look for goals and objectives that you want to achieve. Like, you have goals and objectives. When you even meet this person, if you have a conversation, what goals does this person have? What objective does this person have? Just like the values, do our goals and objectives, they might not be exactly the same thing, but do they align to some extent, right? Do they complement each other? Right. And then, like I also mentioned before, do not just stay around waiting for a man. Do not stay around waiting for a man. You have to keep doing what you're doing, right? You have to keep being engaged. And I know many of us always like hold on to societal constraints and all that is going on. But I know it's going to be very hard. It could be very, very hard. But with God's help, lastly, I would say trust in God. Me, from personal experience, all my life has been guided and guarded by God, because I probably wouldn't know what path I'm to take. I probably wouldn't know where I'm going or where I'm headed if I did not have God's help. Like, I'll be completely blind. There's a scripture that says, I would teach you and instruct you in the way which you should go. I will guide thee with my eyes. And that scripture has been with me ever since, because it is God that taught me many things that I know, many things I should have taking, many opportunities I should take, and even the opportunities I shouldn't take, right? Many people I meet, and I have that discerning spirit that this person is not it. This person is just not it, right? And the man I'm married to now, the Spirit of God made me realize that this person is the person, right? So the Spirit of God, you need that spirit to teach you and instruct you and guide you in the way which you should go.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm going to give you some time to rest while we move on to the next. Must feel wanted. It's true. Yeah, so that's right, actually. But that should not also limit us in a way where we go, because all men want to feel wanted. So, as a lady, you don't pursue your own goals and desires. So you should always pursue what you know God has spoken to you about, or where He's taking you to. Next person I'm going to introduce here is it's Plangret. Plangret is a legal practitioner in the financial services sector who is passionate about youth and women development, economic stability, credible elections, good governance, and kingdom building. She's a graduate of law from the University of Jos and was called to the Nigerian bar in 2014. She has worked in real estate, civil society, and is currently a public servant. She's a born-again Christian and currently serves as a worship leader in the branch of Family Worship Center that she attends. She has also served in the youth church in FWC and well as assisted her husband in a care group ministry. Plangret is married to a wonderful husband, and their marriage is blessed with 2 lovely boys. Her hobbies include reading, writing, listening to comedy, listening to music, singing, and dancing. I must add here that I've known Plangret in law school, we went to law school together, and also we did so many things together. She's a wonderful personality, and I'm glad to have her here with us. Plangret, can you say hi?
Hello, everybody.
Plangret, it's good to have you here.
Thank you. It's good to be
really
here.
Appreciate it. Yeah. So I'm just gonna go straight into my questions for you. Plangret is a wife, she's a mother, she's everything. She's into her career, she's doing so well. And my questions for you that I'm going to start with is simply straight to the point. Tell us how you've been able to juggle being a wife, being a mother, and your career. You have 2 boys, I have 2 boys as well. So I perfectly understand what having 2 boys is. I mean, it's something. So, and the fact that you've had 2 boys, you've stayed in your career paths, unlike us. So it's a lot of work. I know how demanding the career you are in is. I know how demanding, being a mother, being a wife is. So I just want you to tell us from your experience because I'm trying to tell a story with the way I am bringing in the guests. We have talked about singlehood into marriage. I'm picking up from you to talk about how you've been able to, deal with marriage from the aspect of, getting things done for yourself, even while being married, while being there for your husband, while being there for your children, and not letting your career, suffer from that. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Debbie. Thank you for the platform once again. Good evening, everybody. As she said, my name is Plangret, and it's an honor to be here. So straight to your question. When I was even hearing you reading this bio, even me, I was scared. I was like, am I the one that they're talking about? But God has been faithful, and I love what the first speaker said, because she was actually reminding me of so many things about when I was single and how God has transitioned me at each stage from being single, being married to being a mom of two. When I was going to have the second one, I felt like this is something that I've done before, but apparently it's a very different ball game to juggle the two. So
That's what I used to.
I just want to address how God has, and I think I'll use some of someone is to mute the
Sorry about that.
Okay, so maybe you can help us mute some of the unmuted mics. All right. Okay. So like I was saying, I want to just resound some of the things she said, and the first is being purpose. I came across the book The Purpose Driven Life in the university when with the church I used to attend, and incidentally the pastor is my uncle. So we read it in church, and I think when people talk about my life or my salvation story, that's the first thing that pops into my mind, the purpose-driven life, because it was around that age where you begin to ask yourself, what are you here for? What am I here for? And I told someone, I said, I think that's why a lot of young people are kicking against religion these days, because people don't want garbage in, garbage out anymore. People want to know, really, this thing I'm doing, what is the end game? What am I here for? And for me, I thank God that God has, for the time that I've worked with him, God has given me a pretty clear idea of what my purpose is. And he has refined it as time has gone on. Because if you've worked long enough with him, you know that a lot of times he gives you the end picture, but he doesn't really give you the middle. So it's a journey of faith. It's a bit hazy. He'll be clarifying it as you're going. So for me, when I'm doing anything in life, I ask myself, how does this serve my purpose? How does this help my purpose? Whether it's an activity, a relationship, a decision, a life decision, how fundamental is it to my purpose? If I don't do it, will it affect my purpose? If I do it, will it affect my purpose? And in that, flowing from that, we now create priorities. And based on our different backgrounds, based on our different exposure, based on our lives, we all have different priorities. And I feel like, especially as a mother and as a mom, so many things are battling for your time. I remember some weeks ago, I was talking on a friend's own platform. She had a conference, a 14-day conference, woman to woman. And then there were a couple of times, I think even with Debbie, where she's reached out to me and I'm like, oh gosh, I should have done this. And I just made a statement. I told her, I said, I think everybody wants a piece of me this week. So I said, but multiple people were waiting for me for multiple things. And I just like, please, I'll get to you, wait your turn and all that. So if I'm going to just even lie if I say it's not overwhelming sometimes. But what I've come to understand is that even though you're overwhelmed should not be a permanent state in your life. Because I remember Joyce Meyer saying some time ago that a lot of women think that being busy is being productive, or we feel like if we're not busy and if we're not occupied, then we're not being productive. And when Debbie just some minutes ago that she had a restful Saturday, I was like, gosh, I really need to get back to my restful Saturdays because this is not funny anymore. So anyway, for me, I would say my first priority is God. I think that goes without saying. And of course, because he's the source of everything I do. I remember the AMVCAs some time ago. Everybody will come, and when they're going to accept their word, people will be like, I want to thank God. And then somebody came and wrote a commentary, and well, why are Nigerians so religious? Why is everybody saying God, God, God? I was like, those who know. Those who know. If you've been through some things, you really know. So that's my first priority. And that's what I say. And I tell God, I say, God, as me and you don't day like this, all this while. I don't want to hear that I not enter heaven. I must enter, and I must enter well. So anyhow, we are going to do it. Let's do it together. I don't know if you do all these things and not enter. Praise the Lord. So the second one is family and friends. This is something I'm actually very passionate about. If for the people who follow my my WhatsApp stories, because I think that's where I'm most vocal on social media. I always talk about this thing and I put the hashtag doing better. And that's because we grew up our generation, or people born in our generation, were very lucky to have grown up with parents who were God-fearing. But I also think that there's a lot of balance that needed to have been brought into equation, the whole equation of raising children, of family life, of so many things. And I think the mercies God gives each generation is that He unveils a different aspect of things so that you are able to do better than the previous one. So for me, I'm constantly asking myself, first of all, that as a partner to my husband, who is my first priority, am I doing well? Are we doing well? And then secondly, as a mother to my sons, am I doing well? First of all, am I raising them as good people, good citizens, as children of God? And secondly, am I raising them to be good men? I am of the school of thought that men raise men, but whether you like it or not, culturally and culturally, God has given the mother a very important position to nurture the child. So in as much as my child may be physically well and he's looking healthy, I need to also make sure that mentally and spiritually and so many other things is healthy. So for me, that is very important. And then of course there's friendships and relationships, because we know that in this life, God is merciful, but there are hardly times He will ever drop something on your head, or you need something and He drops it on your head. Almost every economy in this life is connected to relationships. This, I'm going to be honest, is a bit hard, because especially I live in Abuja. Sometimes by the time you close from work and your weekends and all that, it's not good to keep in touch. But at least once in a while, I try to make sure that I'm doing that. And then the other one is my career, my development. So real quick, he was asking me how to balance. And when I'm saying this, let me just put out a disclaimer. I'm not claiming perfection in any way, but I'm just saying principles that I've read, that I've come across, and I help. And the first thing is planning and discipline. Now, I think that the whole journey of life, that's why we need God, because discipline is not easy, but it's a muscle that you build over time. And for me, planning starts at the beginning. Okay. Planning starts for me at the beginning of the year. So at the beginning of the year, do a retreat, or at the end of the year, whichever way works. Because to be honest, in recent times, when I was younger or earlier in life, it used to be quite easy to get a particular time, but now it's not. There are times I've retreated to work. So like I've come back from work and that's when I do my. So it starts at the beginning of the year, and then you're evaluating what you've done the previous year, looking at what you're going to do. So that's the blueprint for everything you do. And I ask myself, what do I want to do? Where should I have? This year particularly, I go to family worship center, as they said, and then the pastor said something very important. She talked about a retreat that they had in church with the board, and they did their own evaluation based on two metrics: wisdom and foolishness. So she was saying that they listed their wise and their foolish decisions. So based on the major aspects of my life, I will now do that. And when I see the worst performing areas, or if I see what I want to do, I can now make a plan, just like a rough sketch, and see by the end of this year, what do I want to achieve personally, for my family, for all that. And a rough blueprint of that is spiritually, what do I want to achieve? There was a time I used to be so ambitious and I would write like 10 things that I want to achieve, but I've learned over time to keep it simple. So for instance, it could even be my devotion. If I skip devotion some days and I can tell myself that I want to do better. So let's aim for like 80%, or let's aim for 99% and all that. There was a year where I had switched branches, so I wasn't really in any service unit. And I told myself, I know better than this. So my goal that year was join the service unit by this time of the year. And the other one is for my growth, for ministry, for different things. And my family life. A lot of times I evaluate with my husband and we're like, we said we were going to go out. And then we look at it and we're like, actually, in the last 2 months, we did go. And I don't mean like we just stumbled across the going out, like we actually planned it and went and put off our phones and all that. We say we want to go out with our boys. This year we had to be a bit drastic about it. So it's like this month you're in charge of all outings. Next month I'm in charge of all outings. So we will give notice and say, hey, we will go there with the boys like that. And there are so many aspects of family life. Sometimes it's even planning meals. I've gotten to the stage where sometimes if I don't write things down, like just the week is very one kind for me. I can even write from Monday to Saturday, this is what we're going to eat. And then if it means that I'm going to meal prep or do whatever I need to do, or even outsource, then I have. But all the weekends where I don't do it, it's really difficult for me to do. But sometimes even the mental capacity to do it is not that easy. Then for my career, I look at what I want to achieve, where I am. So I'm planning things like, okay, I'm writing my promotion exam this year, but I have a rough sketch of all the professional exams and the degrees I want to have. So while having this rough sketch, I now tell myself that, okay, what is the most realistic time frame which I can do it? How many things can I do at the same time? If I add on this course, will it interrupt all the other things I'm doing? By God's grace, I started an MBA and I wanted to do another professional course. But I came back to the drawing board and told myself, no, I will rob Peter to pay Paul. If I do this, what am I willing to drop so that I can do that? So I've told myself, I'm just going to do this one and finish it before I start the other two and layer the other two. Then self-development, even for myself personally, I had these conversations with myself. Like some years ago, I just told my husband, I'm like, I don't know why every wedding I should be paying somebody to do my makeup and my gele every time. And then if I don't find somebody to tie it, I'll be looking like one. So why don't I do that? So things like that come to mind, and I'm like, okay, this leave, for instance, my leave, I've already booked the one that I'm going to do. I know people in my office. I know someone who is in IT, and then she's not. Our department is not a core IT place. So I know that she used her leave to go and learn coding, not because she's coding, but she just feels like if I don't do this thing, I won't know how to do it eventually. I know people who pay for public speaking, for other things that generally shape your identity of yourself or to improve your identity of yourself. So people go to cooking classes. I've done it before. I just felt like I'm tired of eating all the things I know how to make. And by God's grace, I know how to make a number of stuff. So I'm just like, I want to go and learn other dishes. Then legacy. So basically, it's balance. And finally, what I just want to say is that when you're balancing, like I said, your priorities should be. There are times when something, but as much as possible, just make sure that the things suffering are not the things that are very important. When I need to be diligent in my office, there are times some weeks I will just give my family notice and say I'll close like 2 hours or 3 hours later. I want to stay back in the office and meet this deadline. But there are also many times in the office when people want me to come in during the weekend, and I'm like, sorry, I can't come in this weekend. I need to be with my family. So it just depends on what your priorities are at the time, and make sure that the major things in your life do not suffer the minor things.
I mean, that's awesome. That's awesome. The most important point I took from all you said is be realistic. It's very important for you to be realistic. You know, what stood out for me too is when you said, you know, you started an MBA, you had to drop some things. And this is one thing that I think women need to understand. We need to be very realistic with ourselves. We cannot take everything on at the same time. The fact that you decide to take a break or you stop something for a particular time doesn't mean that you have failed. It just means that you have realized at that point that I cannot continue with this very thing at this particular point. It doesn't mean that maybe in a year or 2 years, you can't go back to it. And it's not about when, it's just achieve. That's it. It's not when you achieve. It's not when your friends are achieving. Oh, my friend just did this, so I must do it. Look at what is within you and what's in your reality at that particular time, and decide if this is something you can take up at that point. I mean, that point actually stood tall for me. And I hope that everyone listening, I've gotten 1 or 2 things from what you said. Plan. Planning is very important. We're a part of the world where, people don't plan. I've spoken to some women sometimes and I ask them, okay, so we're in a new year, what's your goal as a family for the year? And they're like, which one is goal for the year again in a family? Is it work? Is it your workplace? I'm like, you have to have a goal, because if you don't have something you're working with for the year, how do you, like you said, evaluate yourself as a family at the end of the year? You made a very, very strong point. And I remember myself and my husband are in this same boat of saying, we're going to do this, we're going to be going out. And it was in February, we had to sit down and say, we have to take this thing very serious. We have to take it very serious. We have to take it very serious. We have to go out specifically at least once a month. Once a month. So if you don't have goals or plans or things you've written out as a family, how then do you evaluate yourself as a family? How then do you tell yourself, oh, I think we did well in this year? And how would you identify things that you feel you should do better in if you don't have goals, if you don't have plans written out? So it's very important for us to plan. It's very important also for us to prioritize friends and families. Family, like she said, you just have to balance it. You cannot all just be about work. And when you are home, my children, my husband, there must be balance. If it's when you begin to run yourself like a clock, it's at that point you feel like you begin to feel like you're worn out, and then you think, oh, I can't go on. So plan rates, another very important question, because why people were registering for this event, we gave them the opportunity to, suggest issues they might want us to talk about. So someone asked this question. This very question is something that I know you'll be able to answer. She asked that she's presently having a problem with her work life and the home and her sex life, especially in the aspect of her sex life. And she feels like she's at a point where she's responsible for the way their, activities in bed has been so far, because whenever she comes back from work, she's worn out, she's tired, she still has to deal with the kids and all of these things. So what would be your advice in balancing, her work life specifically, which is what she asked, and, that aspect of their life, their own?
All right. Like I said, for a lot of things, you need to plan. When I came across this at first, this was when I was in premarital counseling, and my counselor was like, they plan sex. I said, what kind of thing is this one? I've never heard that. Because, sorry to say, but for many of us, especially when we're young, your ideas about relationships, sex, and everything are formed by media, social media, by TV, by Hollywood, and things like that. So you just expect that when there's so much spontaneity, you will just go and everything will happen at once. But I'm assuming this person has a very busy career, and sometimes I'm a bit wary of telling people things based on my situation, but I think there are some principles that apply no matter where you are. And the first principle is that your family is very, very important. Your family is one of those things that at the end of your life, there's someone who is elderly, a pastor in the church, and she said that if in the evening of your life, your family is not together, no matter the achievements you have outside, it will not settle well with you, especially your children. You're saying that if you ask a lot of people, especially people who have made it and their children are not stable, maybe they have children who are quite old and have been unable to marry, not because they don't even want, but they're not unable to marry, or they're unable to settle down or have settled life. She said it's as if your life now becomes defined by that thing. So I know that it matters to her. That's why she's asking this question. So the first thing I want to say, I don't know if I should lead with this, but that sometimes you also have to ask yourself that this career path you're currently on, in the long run, is it good for your family? Or is it not good for your family? And I'm talking because I've been on both sides of the spectrum. I actually waited for years before I was able to work after NYSC. And I remember that period because I'm not built like that. It was really messing with my mind. Like, what is that? And a senior person told me then that you appreciate God because this is a time of your life you wish to get back. Because I had my first son. And in my mind, I'm just like, what is this one saying? Because you have work, you know, you will not understand. But I am not joking. There are times I sit down and I crave those times when it was just me and my kids, when there were things that only me would do for my kids. And I don't have to come to those things are done. So I know what I'm saying on both sides. Sometimes you have to evaluate whether this career path is good for you. I spoke with a friend, and when I told her I was going into the public service, she was even shocked. She was like, I've never even struck her as someone who would be in the public service. But I told her that no, there were many things that went into making those decisions. Where I was coming from, I used to travel a lot. It was busy, and I loved it before I got married. But after I had my kid, I dreaded it now, because how would I just and begin to stand up and leave my kid? So prayerfully, I know that God can give you options of things you can do, whereby you're still on a good career path, but you have more time for yourself. Then the other thing is, like I said, maybe you also have to look at your systems. There is someone my friend highly recommends, and from what she shared on me, I've not yet had a session with her, but I've considered it. Her name is DDK. I don't know her full.
Oh yeah, DDK.
Yeah, DDK. And she told me, there was something she said, which I mentioned earlier. She told me that she did a course on overwhelm. And she was saying that women think it is natural to be overwhelmed, but it's actually not. It means that something in your systems or something in your organization is off if you're consistently overwhelmed. And when she said it, that thing has struck with me, because she has been mentored by DDK. So there's a time she was even telling me, let's even have a meeting, let's sit down and discuss and get to the root of why you're feeling overwhelmed, and let's see how we can tackle it from the root. So that's another thing. You need to look at your systems. For the job you are doing, do you have enough support system? Here we are raised to believe that suffering or like stress is the hallmark of womanhood sometimes. And you hear people make funny statements like, nobody can cook my husband's food, nobody can bath my children, nobody can sweep my house, nobody can do that. And that's okay. For me, I believe that it's okay if that's what you want, or if that's it's something you can do. But are you doing it because you feel the pressure of other people? This thing you are doing is a quick human impossible. Because you hear people put themselves in some situations. Some people genuinely, good help is not easy to find. So some people genuinely cannot find it. So maybe you need to evaluate, are there things you're doing that you should outsource? Even with the lady that stays with me, last year, I was talking to my husband and like, okay, we iron our children before we put them away. And I told him, I said, as simple as this thing looks, it's actually overwhelming. And we decided to take it away. And we didn't even know what we had done until the first time someone came to iron on a weekend. And this guy spent hours ironing these clothes. So we're like, wow. So because the person is breaking it like this, we do not appreciate the workload that it was, you know? So sometimes it may be simplifying your life and breaking some things. Now, concerning your sex life, it's a very serious issue, as I'm sure she already knows. That's why she brought it up. Like I said earlier, sometimes you may need to move away from the spontaneity aspect. And for me, sometimes I notice that it's not only exhaustion. Sometimes your emotional state of being. If things are not good between you and the truth is that even mentally, to get yourself to that state is a problem. If that is the case, the person will need to get some counseling, depending on which they stay in. If they stay in Abuja, I will always recommend Family Worship Center. I have done the premarital and the postmarital, and I have seen what God has done for people. I follow Pastor Kingsley and Mildred Okonkwo in Lagos. So I don't know what city the person is. Maybe you could get that information, but they need to also be linked with counseling if that's the situation. Because the truth is that sometimes when you're not addressing issues as well, when you're unhappy, the big factor and all that, especially for women. For men, this thing is a must. They are good to go. A man can be dying on his deathbed. If the thing just move. But for a woman, if things are not settled mentally, it's like a tug of war, and what should be pleasurable even becomes irritating. Then the other thing is, like I said, you should put days aside. And I think for your partner to also be validated, there should be some special effort. So for instance, even if it is once a week and you dedicate this day and say, I must come in by this time, and you're deliberate and you communicate it and let the person know that I am coming and I'm thinking of you. They don't feel taken for granted. And communication is very important. You also need to communicate with your partner. The honest truth is, like, some people's libido is just not as high as other people. So you need to speak with your partner and tell the person where they are meeting your needs and where they're not meeting your needs. You need to hear where you're, because for some people, funny enough, this may not be the case. You may think that it's just that's your problem, but the person's problem is different. The person's love language may be being stabbed in another area. You are focusing on another area. I know some people who, like, they always give the example. Somebody's love language is acts of service, and the person will come and maybe the other partner is buying gifts all the time, and the person will cry and say, "You don't love me." The person will now be shocked, like, me that's spending how many million buying you gifts. It's like, did I ask you to buy me gifts? So you need to also communicate with your partner, know the person's love language. Even when sometimes you're slacking in that area, at least you know that the person's love tank is being filled and the person is not being taken for granted. Because the truth is that when you have a healthy communication and you have a healthy friendship with your partner, even when you're tired, they also know. That image of the man being angry because he didn't get it doesn't always apply. The person will also understand. I think the problem comes when the person is feeling like you're taking them for granted, like you don't take their needs importantly. So there are a variety of issues. If I've not answered anything, let me know.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, so in summary, you said it might not always be the issue of being overwhelmed. It might be something else. It might be, something emotional, mental. It could be love language differences. It could be some other things. Also, you talked about communication. We was able to communicate with our partners, and well. So I'm hoping that we were able to answer the person's question. Because of our time, I will move on to the next person, introducing the next person. I'm sorry, I think in my order of introduction, I'm going to switch. I was supposed to introduce Janet now, but I'm going to introduce Wumi because of the way the conversation has gotten. I think she comes in perfectly well here, so we can just wrap up this before we go to the last aspect of it. So Wumi is a purpose-driven Jesus lover. She strongly believes in raising homes, families, and relationships with integrity. She has served in various leadership capacities. She finds fulfillment in giving hope and encouragement to anyone who is going through difficult time at any point. Wumi is committed to continuous growth and development, to redefine herself and be a blessing to others wherever she goes. She had her undergraduate studies in biochemistry at Bowen University and a master's of marketing. And she also has a master's in occupational health and safety from universities in Cyprus. Currently, she's the director of international admission office at the University of Mediterranean Cappadocia in Cyprus. She's blessed to be a daughter, a sister, and a wife. Also, she's a mother to an amazing son who rocks the world. So yeah, we're going to bring in Wumi to the stage. Are you here?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. I'm glad to have you here. It's an honor to have you here. Thanks for doing this. I'm going to go straight into my questions for you. First, I will ask you, how do you tell us about your transition from being a wife to a mother? What was the shocks and the hits and run that you had from transitioning into just being a wife, you and your husband, into motherhood? What were your experiences in the first few days of being a mother? What changes did you have, your body changes? What changes happened in your home generally, in your life, in your career, in everything? Just talk about that briefly before we go into more specific questions. Thank you.
Thank Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Ma. Um, yeah. Well, well, before I had my child, myself and my husband, it was a very rosy experience. Like I really enjoyed it. When I mean I enjoyed it, yes. We had time to ourselves, we go out, like, just both of us at home and all that. Then the baby came in and it was all the attentions were all focused on the child. The experience was great. It was not really because it was just myself and my husband, and we were both learners. There was no grandma, there was no grandpas, there was nobody to help. So we're just both learning. Like, how will I wash this baby? I had to check YouTube, how to bathe a newborn baby, how to, like, different things. It was really challenging. Sometimes I'm crying, my mom is calling me on the phone, don't pour the water like this, do it like this. I'm like, oh God, mom is saying this one, grandma is saying this one, my husband is saying this one. And it was really a great experience for me to learn. I really had the opportunity to learn. And thank God for my husband. We both were not like saying, okay, I've trained my sister's child before, so this is how to do it. We're both into it. Like, this is a learning period for us. So we really embraced that period, and we thank God. We thank God for the process. And the big thing now is now the child is here. Focus on the child, how to train the child, how to feed the child, and the shocking thing, my body system, the way it started changing, I'm like, oh my goodness, and I dropped my child after 3 months of giving birth to him. I had to get someone to help me babysit because I had to resume back to work. So it was a really big challenge for me. I go to work, by the time I come back, my breast is like blocked. I had to quickly pump and all that. So physically, I was drained because I had to take care of my child, I have to take care of myself, I have to take care of my husband. And I'm like, you people, you want to kill me. How will I balance all this? How will I do all this? But I thank God for the strength God has given. When we rely on God, and I like the way everybody has, all the women that have spoken, one of the major things they said is God. So we can't leave God out of it. So God has been our strength. God has been my source. So the transitioning, it's like a magic. Like, I was prepared for it in one way or the other. I was prepared for it. I knew, okay, this is what I'm really going for. And mentally, I was also ready for it. So it is really important. And it really helped me through this process. So physically, like you asked, the changes I had, the circle was, my menstrual circle was like jumping from one. I'm like jumping from one. This month is this way, next month is that way, and I'm like, what is really happening to this body? Like, I just want my body back. Like, I just want my body back. So the body system really changed drastically for me, and I was really concerned. I got to a time for the first 3 months, I think I was adding weight because I had a baby boy, and the boy was eating like something else. So I had to keep eating so I can feed this boy very well. So I added more weight, and it was a big concern. Like, hey, is this how all this package comes? Like, you give birth and you're like, oh, they're like that. So, but with the help of God, mentally, I knew it was just a period. And it was, this place will go. It is just for this period of time. And with the help of God and with the help of my husband, both understanding that, okay, we are into this together, it really helped me. So.
Thank you so much. So also, why I said you come in at that particular time was because of what we were talking about. I would love to ask your opinion on the question that I asked the last speaker about balance, because I know you have a wonderful career, you're a mother, you're doing something fantastic for yourself. When it comes to, sex in the home and balancing your life, your work life, and being a mother, being a wife, with, attending to the needs of your husband. What can you say about that? What advice can you give to women who are listening from your own personal experience? What has been very helpful to you in similar situation?
Okay. For me, I create time for it. If in a week I know we are going to have our ORP hormone on Thursday, I make sure that everything that has to be done, I do them before Wednesday night. There's not going to be any excuse. If I have to leave work by 3:30, even if my boss is calling me, this is my closing hour, I have to leave. So I create time for everything. The time I spend for my child, the time I spend cooking. If I have to cook for the week and I know I'm meeting my husband, I'm having intimacy with my husband on Thursday, I make sure mentally I'm thinking, yes, I know Wednesday is for my husband's night. Nothing. This body would not be weak. This body must be ready for this period. So it's something like,
okay, so let me cut you there, sorry. So
yes.
Are you saying in a situation like this, when you are very busy, you have your work, you have things you're doing, so you are of the opinion that it is fine and it is all right to actually make a date if you know you're going, you know you're a very busy person, your career is demanding all of these things. So are you advising that try making a date with your husband, and you say maybe on a Thursday, okay, on Thursday I'll be available for you. It's actually fine to do that.
Yes, ma'am. For me, that really works. Yes, for me.
What works for you?
Yes, that works for me. We both plan for a day because we know we both have schedule. My husband is a very busy person. I'm also a very busy person. So what we do, we both look towards for a day in a week. If it's one time in a week and we have it really like, both of us, we are full, you know, we are full brimmed. We are full.
I mean, yeah.
We look towards to the next time. So even if you come after that Thursday and you say, baby, how far now? You know, it might not be as deep as that, but babe, you know, let's just look forward to, you understand? For me, it has really been working. So, I don't know.
Okay, yeah, so that's another, I hope the person who asked the question is listening. Also, another thing I want to talk with you on this event is postpartum issues. I know I'm going to be talking about what I faced when I had my second son. When I had my second son, I got home, I had a pandemic baby. You know, I had a pandemic baby. I got to the hospital, I knew my body, because I'd already given birth to one child. So I knew my body was ready. I got to the hospital and they said, oh, because of COVID, blah, 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 they won't let me to stay in the hospital till I'm, you know, ready to give birth. So they told me, go back home. I went back home, told me to come back by 2 p.m. By the time it was 2 p.m., I think the baby was already trying to come out. So it was crazy, and it's a long ride from my house to the hospital. So it was, I mean, I can never forget that experience. It was the most painful, trying to keep the baby in till I get to the hospital. The baby finally came out when we got to the hospital, had a bit of infections here and there because I had kept the baby in for a while it was trying to come out. I was intentionally trying to keep the baby in. So after I had the baby, I realized that a side of my body, especially my face, was numb. So for weeks, I would have to intentionally tap that side of my head to feel, because sometimes I just feel like that side is not there at all. So I had that issue for weeks. It was really, really crazy. And also, I knew another issue I had postpartum was the fact that since it was a pandemic baby, I didn't have help. Everybody was locked down in their state, no grandma, no mother-in-law, nothing. It was just myself dealing with a newborn, dealing with a toddler, dealing with being a wife. And in a time like that, where everything was difficult, you know, it took a toll on me. It was a really stressful period of my life. And at that point in my life, what I knew that I really went through, I was not ready to go near to do anything with anybody. Even as my husband, I was not, because I was not in the right frame of mind. I had to deal with a newborn, I had to deal with a toddler. I was just the only one. There was no help, no single help for me. So, but one thing I was really appreciative of during that period was my husband was not, I don't think he at any point in time tried. It got to a point where I had to look at the calendar and I was like, wow, it's been so normal months. I was the one who took myself to him, bros, how far? Are you okay? This one you're not. It's like, I know, but you're going through a lot, this, that. But I've come across women who had issues. Some were medical, postpartum. Some were medical, some were just that, their body system could not just take sex after. And I know that, I think we spoke about a similar incident you went through postpartum. I think the more we begin to talk about these issues, and the way we handled it during our own time, if we have had similar experience. So when anyone who is listening at this point in time goes through something similar, the person, one thing I also came to realize later is, like Pangret said earlier, when it comes to sex, it's not always the issue of you being overwhelmed. It's always where your mental state is at that point. It's not always, it could be also that maybe you are not emotionally in the right place with your husband, yes. But it always boils down to either your emotional state or your mental state. Because once you are balanced, or once you are okay emotionally or you are okay mentally, your body system will automatically adjust to your mental state. So most time when we say, oh, I don't want anybody to touch me, it's not because you actually don't want anybody to touch you. It's just because at that point in your life, you are overwhelmed. You are not okay mentally. You probably need help. You probably need to speak to somebody, or you're just, you are feeling hurt or pain in a particular aspect of your life. So Wumi, I want you to talk about how what you went through postpartum with sex, and what you would advise mothers, new mothers who have just given birth, or someone who is pregnant, and to be aware that this is something they might likely go through, and how to approach it if this is something they experience with their body after they give birth.
Okay, ma. Yeah, first thing I would like to make mention is that postpartum is not caused by anyone.
It's not.
Something. Yeah. It is not your cause. You are not the one that caused it. Yes. So I think I started having the postpartum issues when my son was 2 years. After 2 years, that is when I started having it. Wow. And it started with the symptoms of hemorrhoid. I was not really, I thought it was a normal, like maybe I was sick or something really happened. Yes, maybe I was sick or something really happened, but I had hemorrhoid and it broke down all my body system. Sexually, I don't just want my husband to touch me because of the way I'm feeling. Mentally, I'm not feeling well down there. So until when I went to meet, I spoke to a medical doctor and I told him this is what I've been having issues on. And he said, yeah, I have to operate it. So I operated the hemorrhoid and it was just like a magic. Like I was like, seriously? So this is what has really been affecting me medically. So I operated the hemorrhoid. Then from there, and thank God that my husband also understood the issues of postpartum, because then when I say don't touch me and don't do that, it's not as if I'm trying to neglect him. It's not as if I'm doing something really bad. So he knew what was really going on with my body. I had several mood swings. I can just come in, I can be happy for a few minutes, and after 2 minutes, the mood is there. I cry a lot, like unnecessary. I remember a day I was going to work, I took my son and I was at the door. My husband came out and I was in tears. Okay, what do you want? What have I done? I was really asking a lot of questions, but in my mind, I knew I was carrying a like load on myself, and I needed to pour it out. So we needed to talk about it. I just needed someone, just a hug, and just hear what I have to say at that particular period. So medically, it's if you are a woman here, and some people, it might not come at early stage for you. Like I said, mine came after my baby was 2 years. But when you started seeing traces of it, when you started seeing that and I also had night sweat. At night I sweat, even when in winter I'm sweating. My nightwear is wet. I'm like, what? These things doesn't happen to me before I had this baby. So why is this happening now? So I had to talk to someone as well. If you're a woman here, if you're a mother here or a mother to be here, these things, it happens. These things, it happens. You for no reason you are sad, for no reason you are overwhelmed, for no reason, like you are doing this, you are doing that, and you are carried away by all this. You have to really treat yourself. You have to really focus on yourself and solve this issue. So after I had the hemorrhoid issue, it was sorted out, and gradually, and I would like to say it is not a permanent process. It is not a permanent situation. It is something that will come and pass. Now, I don't think I'm having anything called, I don't know, I think it has reduced to when my baby was 2 years ago, when my baby was 2. It has reduced now, like the way I feel. And I can't say it's postpartum issues and all that, you understand? So I would like to tell mothers here, try and see look at yourself, what exactly is happening. It might not be, some people might not have physical issues. Some people, it can be physical issues. Like I differentiate. I had medical issues, and I also had some issues of physical issues as well. But once I treated the medical issue, it really helped me in my sexual part, because it's hemorrhoid. I don't know if anybody has had hemorrhoid. Like the pain, it's something else. But not until when I treated it, I operated it out, then it was a bit down there, it was a bit flexible. When I'm having sex, I don't have the pain, because I'm always thinking having sex, I'm having pain all the time. It's like you don't feel what I'm feeling, and I don't want to go through that pain of having sex, of having pain while having sex. You understand? And it was the hemorrhoid that was causing it. Not until when I operated it, then it was I really, like, there was really a change. I felt I started feeling the way I was feeling before I gave birth. So medically, that is why we need to talk to someone, like people you can trust. You need to talk to them.
Someone is saying that she had someone is Jenna. I'm even going to bring her up now. She said she have had the same issue of pregnancies, but second was worse. Thank God you took care of it. It should go away. When she says operate, she means surgery. When she says operate, she means surgery. She means surgery. Yes, I want to, 1 minute, Wumi, I want to bring up the last person, because right now I want to keep asking everybody the same question after, everyone's thoughts on this. So I need to bring up the last person, Janet Jamesy. She was born in Lagos, Nigeria, but raised in New Jersey, USA. She now resides in the UK with her husband. She's a God chaser, wife, mother, author, youth, and young adult leader in church, home educator. She's a property investor, a barrister in training at BPP Law School in Cambridge, UK. She's a mompreneur. She's a blogger at davidlovejanet.com. She's a graduate with a paralegal degree and Bachelor of Arts from St. John's University in New York. She's the founder of Real Moms. You can check that out on Instagram, Real Moms, an online platform on Instagram and Facebook, connecting Black and Asian mothers to various pregnancy, birth, and postpartum content. It also aims to connect home educators of colors all over the world. From the age of 12, she became a certified British Red Cross babysitter and was a babysitter nanny for multiple families and organizations, taking care of children ranging from 9 months to 16 years of age, all before becoming a mom of her own, which gives her a love and passion for child training. And I'm very, very, I have a soft spot for Janet, because I always do have a soft spot for people who are very vocal with their beliefs and what they actually belief. She's one of those ladies who is very vocal with her belief. She says what she believes in strongly, passionately, irrespective of what you think, irrespective of if you have a different opinion. She says that as respectfully and with, points to back it up. I'm so honored to have you here, Janet. Thank you so much for accepting to do this with us. Can you say hi?
Hi. Thank you very
so
much.
Yeah. So firstly, before we begin to talk about, I know you have some things to say about the postpartum, also Plangret, but I want to ask you some questions specifically before that. I know you're really passionate about homeschooling and limiting the type of exposure we give to our children, especially in this day and age. I want to know how you got to the point where you realize that for you personally and for your family, homeschooling is the way to go. And also, would you say you made this decision intentionally, or you feel like life just got you to that point where you decided, well, or were you intentional even before birth? Did you already know that, okay, I'm going to homeschool my kids? Or was it that along the way, you realize that, okay, this is the path in which I want to go?
Good evening, everyone. Again, thank you, Sister Deborah, for inviting me and sharing the stage with all these awesome women. One speaker I know just recently broke the internet with her wedding picture. She might not want to admit it. I know she was strong and independent by herself, but marriage is a beautiful thing, and we thank God for good marriages, because that's the foundation of societies. Yeah. So how my conviction of homeschooling came about was actually, it was my deeper relationship and connection with God. And then coming across one pastor, Vudi Bokham, who was a Christian and also was very vocal about why he homeschooled his 2 biological children and adopted about like 10 or 12 more. Wow. And so once I heard his convictions, his speaking about how the school was really indoctrinating us with so many things, media, and how, your kids spend this amount of time away from home, and then they spend this amount of little time at home, that you have to kind of combat all that they're learning outside, and then expect them to kind of take on your philosophies and whatnot. It's just a very, very hard concept to do it. And then also my own personal life, I grew up in a very liberal school environment, but had a very had a somewhat Christian upbringing that was just so conflicting. So once you get to university, where are you going to stand? What line are you going to stand if you yourself don't have like a strong conviction? You're just doing things to please your parents, and they're just doing things to fit in the crowd at school. So yeah, definitely before birth, I had a conviction. And thankfully in courtship, my husband, who was here at one point, he's logged off now, he has choir practice, also when he heard of my conviction, my understanding of homeschooling, and also thankfully he's also worked with children, especially in the mental health sector. He also got on board, and by God's grace, we're homeschooling our 3, soon to be 4 children. Yeah.
I mean, it is, I must say, I tried homeschooling once, and I fell off the way, because, man, I salute homeschooling mothers. I salute homeschooling mothers. That's a different level of commitment to your kids. It's a higher level of commitment to your kid. And I'm 100% with you on, because my kids are in school, they come back home daily, say some things, and I'm wondering, we don't use these words at all. Where did you get this from? And I have to keep calling their teachers to say, who said that? Who did this? And it's always crazy, because if you're not intentional with, sifting or, speaking to your kids and ensuring, because what happens when you are not, when you're busy yourself and you don't even get to hear when your kids say all those things, then those words sit in right into them and then begins to grow. and then you're not there, you're not home, you're probably at work, you don't get to hear all of these things, and then it gets to a point where they begin to vocalize these things and you realize that you have work to do. So I salute, but unfortunately, not every mother is graced to homeschool, but I salute. One thing I do actually is I do a bit of both. So they go to a regular school, but I still try as much as possible because my work is flexible to spend quality time with them daily, to talk to them about what they've gone through in school and what they did, and be able to, get to teach them from there. So one thing I also want you to talk about before we begin to dive into the questions, because of time, is talk to us mothers, especially we we mothers who have our kids in regular school and we are busy with work and all of these things. Talk to us about how we can effectively engage our young children outside of the use of screen. I'm number one on the line. Number one, my almost 4-year-old son. Okay, all right. Okay, we have to give our guest speaker some minutes. Okay, she's here. Okay, so my almost 4-year-old son has a tab to himself. He has a screen, a tab that I didn't even use when I was a kid. We try as much as possible to get them engaged so we can do other things for ourselves or do things around the home. And the only way we get them engaged sometimes is to give them a tablet or to turn on the TV for them. Speak to us from your experience and ways in which we can engage these young kids of ours, and also from your knowledge, what you know and what you know about the damage that screen time and this sort of exposure to cartoons and all these kind of things can do to a young mind. Thank you so much.
Okay, so I know that this was like a very relaxed panel discussion. I did make a one slide kind of like my thoughts. If you want me to share that, I can.
Yeah, sure.
But in brief, just let me. Okay, you have disabled screen sharing. So if you don't know how to do that with your phone, don't worry. Okay, don't worry. I can always. Oh my God. You can always share this later. Okay.
Okay. All right.
I'll send it to you. But yeah, I'm not an anti-screen mom because I feel like it's a good, even though research says don't use it as a break, but my children do learn a lot from screens, and children can learn a lot from directed educational screens. Yeah. Then you have cartoons. There's so many out there. Honestly, we should be vetting them before we show them to them, but sometimes you just don't have the time to kind of watch everything, like things slip. But my recommendation for screen time is first educational content. If your child is adamant and does not want to watch that educational content, because even my children fight back with my endless sight words and my endless counting and my endless ABCs. And so I'm a Christian, so now I'll go to Next Biblical Content. I pay for an online subscription service that only shows Christian content and with no ads. Right. And then when it comes to YouTube, I have a set account I use. So make another email just for your kid content so that it's not being mixed with any of the other content that you may be watching. And so it has an algorithm that only has like the content your kids watch and kind of like streams and blocks out. I'm wary of YouTube Kids because there's so many like kid to kid content that kids can like slip in anything when they start to do these like role play with their dolls and things. I don't use YouTube Kids for my children. So that's my screen time. So but with kids, I just like I intentionally homeschool, so I do get resources that I do get books and things. I'm a big reader, so I do get like I do buy books for my children to read. They do go to the library to pick up books. I do have other moms that give me books, so books, toys, or just getting things around your house. So it's not a crime for your children to get the pots and to play with the pots and to bang the pots. It might annoy you at one point, but if you can just, take a deep breath, give them their pot, give them a spoon to like play with the pot. I let my children play with beans, I let my children play with rice because though, toddlers find those things exciting. I know it might make a mess. You might be annoyed that, they're playing with food and stuff, but they like sensory things. Sensory is a whole topic on itself. Like they like these things. My husband doesn't like them playing with water, but it's not a crime for them to go in the sink and put some bubbles and play with water. I'm telling you, your 2-year-old and your 3-year-old will like that bubbles and will like that water just for a little bit, and just put them in something you don't want to get ruined. I had a video I was going to share if I was able to share my screen. Like, I with her, my 1-year-old, we were just tapping on the window. Okay, she wanted to climb the window. I'm like, okay. Instead of telling her not to climb after the 15th time, she climbed, and so we're just tapping on the window. 1, she repeated 1. 1, 2, she repeated 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, she repeated 1, 2, 3. And we were just having fun for like 10 minutes. And that made her content. Instead of me fighting for her climbing the window, you have to just think and just think about things that you can engage your children with, just what you have. When they're bored, when they're there. I know if you're in school and there's a set time when they're out of school, just take those couple minutes, 10 minutes, just to be intentional about what are you going to do that week. Instead of just saying, okay, they're out of school this week. You're just so exhausted trying to find childcare. What are they going to do? If you can't, if you can't, take off work and be with them, then engage them with someone that is actually going to do something with them, or actually, have them relax as well, but also stimulate, because routine for a child, even though they need break time, is also important. Like someone that will actually also just keep that kind of like routine, their snack times and fun time. I hope I'm making sense. I hope I'm answering your question too.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, that was really insightful. So what she said, to summarize what she said, you just have to be intentional with your kids. Even if you have, if they go to regular school, when they get back, it doesn't need to be 1 hour. You can spend 10 minutes with them. Let them do what they actually want to do. If it's going to make your house messy, there are ways in which you can use in guiding them to doing what they actually want to do, but within, the confines of, what you let them do. So don't just entirely say, no, you can't get that done. You can't pick the beans. You can't, I felt, I felt like she spoke to me when she said, let your children play with the beans, because today, this afternoon, I was picking beans and my almost 4-year-old son came to me and said, Mommy, I want to help you. And I was like, no, just move back. Don't come near me. Don't pick the beans. And, he just wanted to help. But with the way I reacted, because I did not want him to mix up the picked one with the unpicked one, I just told him, no. So sometimes we just have to let the kids. I could have done things differently, like giving him some of the unpicked ones to tell him to pick, take out the dirt and take out the beans. So there are other ways we can engage our children without it taking too much of our time or going out of our way to get things done. So even if you have kids in regular school, be very intentional with spending time with them and actually, listening to them, speaking to them, let them do what they want to do. I don't know, Mrs. J, someone is raising. Are you the one raising?
Yeah, it was me. Yeah, I wanted to just add on my slides. I had that because it was one. I think it was Plangret that talks about love languages. Children also have love languages, so I had that on my 1 point PowerPoint. Yeah, so it's just as a toddler, it's kind of all combined in one. So you can't really go and take the love language quiz for children as a toddler. but they let you do it after you're 10. But you can see the unique traits. Maybe your child gravitates to one, words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, physical touch. See, like I know this 1-year-old, she's only one, but she absolutely loves acts of service. Like she feeds my husband and I all the time. All the time she just feeds us. Or she always wants to sweep more than my other children. Always wants to do something servicey. So I guess reciprocating it to her, I don't even know right now because I have to give her all the love languages. But maybe when she's older and she's still seeing she's still doing these points. Acts of service is maybe if it's her turn to wash the dishes or something. Or if she's tired and doesn't want to clean up, I come and clean up with her, or I go and wash the dishes with her, or something like that. Or my one other child likes to receive gifts. She's always asking me for something. She wants something. So I like secondhand. I don't have nothing wrong with getting something thrifted. I don't have to buy anything shiny or new. Even a small something, that that might be new to her makes her happy. So yeah.
So I would also love to ask you, what are the issues you went through? I know you're a lover of kids, you have kids, you want to have so many kids. What are the issues you've gone through postpartum that has probably maybe you had to deal with, that affected your marriage, or maybe not affected your marriage, but that gave you a bit of struggle postpartum that you dealt with? What are this experience, or some that you would love to share with our listeners today, that they might pick a thing or two from it, so that if they happen to experience something similar, they can, take a few lessons from your experience?
So being a nanny, I actually came into marriage with like a vast experience.
Yes.
So I actually am one of those women that like to create systems. I'm not against help at all. Like I'm the quickest person to get help when I need it. I'm the quickest person to get takeaway when I need it. I'm the quickest person to order a month of stew for my husband when I need it. Like I don't really I have a by God's grace I couldn't always afford a cleaner, but when you can, and or you can have somebody else in the church can help you with that, you should definitely get it. So the only thing I think I really dealt with, because I have systems in place. My firstborn, I made sure I had her. I've always had family around with my children, because I'm one of those moms that actually the first couple of weeks when I'm really tired, I actually won't hear my babies cry. That's how tired I am. So I've always made sure I surround myself with people, and my husband is very supportive, and he knows that about me. He needs to be aware. It needs to be a nighttime duty, because I would just sleep and not wake up. But I did deal with hemorrhoids for quite a while, because I think the issue with my second born was I had started law school at that point. So with hemorrhoids, it's recommended that you sit down a lot, you don't move. And I couldn't sit down. I had to travel. And I wasn't driving. I had to take the train. I had to drop my kids off. I had to go to school. So the hemorrhoids, I think I had it for like 4 or 5 months. It just wouldn't go away. So it was very, very painful. But I didn't really deal with not having sex and things like the other lady. But I just knew that, because it would like, if I had settled down, for like, because I only went to school once a week, and then the rest I had it online. So it would go back. And my husband wasn't working from home, so he would travel for work, and then he would just come back on the weekend. So I didn't have that added pressure during the week. So yeah, that's about it. But besides that, I've always been intentional about creating systems and getting help when I need it. Yeah, and being vocal about when I get help, because I come from a family of a long list of diagnosed mental illness. So I'm very, very aware that I cannot get schizophrenia, and I cannot get bipolar, and I cannot get some of these things. So I have to make sure that my mental stress is not overloaded, and my husband also makes sure that's not the case either. Yeah.
I mean, I hope listeners, I hope you guys heard what she said. It's very important to get help. Know when you need help. Know when to get help. Be very vocal about it. If you need help, speak up. This is what the first, I think, Plan Right said. know when to communicate your needs. If you need help, be vocal about it, say it. And you know, for the few times we've spoken to men about things that women complain about, they say they don't know because nobody tells them when these things happen. So be vocal about it. When you need help, tell your husband, I need help. And please, looking for help or finding help is not a sign of weakness. Getting help is not a sign of weakness. Forget the standard by which the society, or especially in Nigeria, the way they look at Nigerian women, that you have to be suffering to be seen as the perfect wife. You have to be sweating and dirty and, you know, looking so whatever to be seen as someone who is actually being a wife and a mother. No, don't get judged by the standard of, you know, people or the society. Protect yourself, protect your space, protect your mental health, and do what works for you. And also, it's very important to know that what works for a particular woman might not work for you. That's why you have to settle down and know what works for you. Look within and see what works for you and put that in place. Like she said, create a system around your home, and that will definitely help you in raising your kids and, you know, being a fantastic wife and a mother in your home. So I'm going to come back to Janet. Plangret raised up her hands earlier on the postpartum issue because I'm trying to get us done in the next 30 minutes. I want her to come on to say her thoughts. She wanted to say something on the postpartum issue. Plangret.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Once again.
Yeah.
When she was asking about the postpartum issue, I wanted to say something, not necessarily about just postpartum depression and issues with postpartum, but generally about mental health. And I'm happy that Janet touched on it earlier. Yeah. So especially for people within the age range of like 25 to 40, we live in a society, in the Nigerian society, where women are expected to do so much. We are very policed. We are very responsible for everything. If you follow social media, when people are crying hot tears and like women are the ones that are supposed to control men, control their husbands, control themselves, control everyone. And everyone is demanding things from you. So I think that it's very important before you begin to have kids to know how to create an environment for yourself that does not put you under mental stress. And I think Dina covered it properly and she covered it perfectly.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of family and friends around me who have dealt with issues. Infertility, people who deal with infertility issues, I don't know whether there's something in the water or in the air, but they're so common now. In the last few years, I've had close people to me who have battled whether it be PCOS, fibroids, hemorrhoids, and all that stuff. And I think it doesn't help that, especially for those of us who live in Nigeria, that we deal with a very judgmental society. Assume that something is wrong with you because you cannot deal with those things properly. A few weeks ago, someone who is close to me was discussing with me. Now, I noticed that this person put on a lot of weight, as some of us have done since we've had kids, but she has put on a lot of weight. Now, I never knew she had PCOS. And it always baffled me because she's not a great eater. So I knew that this was not about for her. And she battled with PCOS. But we deal with society where someone will come and then the first thing they're telling you when they see you after having a kid is like, oh my God, you put on weight. A few of my friends are on this chat. I've just said them this thing before about how I met someone who is family. And like no exaggeration, probably twice my side. And the person is like, oh my God, you're as big as me or bigger than me or something like that. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? Why is that the first thing you say out of your mouth when you see me? But the truth is that that's the society that we deal with. And women need to learn how to take care of yourselves, not only physically, but mentally. Unfortunately, on social media, there's this tilted conversation about how life is all about you and your happiness. That one, I don't sway to it totally because it's not very biblically sound. But the honest truth is that women need to be more intentional about taking care of themselves. I was telling a friend who just got married that the same way you make a plan for everything else, you actually need a plan for healthcare. So when you need to talk to your friends or when you need a girl's day out, you take it and you go and hang out with people. When you feel like you need to talk to somebody, when your mind is not right, you do that and you go and make sure that you get your mind right. When you need to communicate with your partner, I think you're not communicating properly, go to a counselor. But don't just break through life and just have this very sad and sickly attitude that, oh, I'm a woman and it is my cross to suffer or to be burdened. Please don't do that. So I think it applies to both people who are dealing with postpartum issues, people who are just married, and even people who are single. Don't allow people shame you when you need help.
Thank you so much for the addition. It was, insightful. So for the participants, if you have a question, this is a good time to begin to drop your questions at the chat box. Please drop your questions. If you want to send it in anonymously, please send it in. I'm trying to wrap up in less than 30 minutes, but 2 questions from questions that were sent in earlier while registering that I would love us to touch on. I don't know if Tolua is still on this call, but if she's still on this call, someone is asking the issue of women being their own problem, and everyone is going to say one thing or the other about this question. Please, when you're answering for the guests, when you're answering, please let it be 1 minute. 1 minute, let your answer be within 1 minute. The issue of women being their own problem, which adds to the bias they face. A case study of Sarah Jibrin, which contested and lost the PDP primaries in 2011. She expressed her surprise on the women delegates at the primaries. None of the female delegates deemed it fit to at least vote her for the simple reason of being the same gender. So she wants us to talk about the issue of women being their own problem. And coincidentally, this afternoon, I was on Instagram and I saw someone who talked about, her losing her husband. And after the incident, the most hate she has gotten are from women. A sister-in-law, a mother-in-law, women who you would think would understand the pain she's going through are the same people demanding that her child be taken away. So she's wondering why the same women who have gone through the pain of pregnancy and giving birth and know the kind of attachment mothers have to their children are the same ones demanding that, our children be taken away from her. So what's your opinion for the guests? What's your opinion about this? Do you think we women need to do better? Do you think we are our own problem? Do you think if we fix ourselves, we'll probably fix the world or the bias that women face? What's your thought on this? Let's start from, I don't know if Tolua is still on this call. Let me check. Oh, yeah. So let's get your thoughts on that. Then after that, we'll get Plangret's thoughts on it. Okay. Then we'll get Jenna's thoughts on it, and we get Wumi's thoughts on it. Yeah.
Okay, so quickly, I would like to say yes. Sometimes, many times, we are part of the problem, but I think I'm happy that we're actually beginning to come into the realization that things need to change, right? In our parents' generation, they grew up to see women as sort of like the second-class citizen, right? Like maybe like playing second fiddle. But I think it's our responsibility now to be able to speak up for each other. We know the kind of pains we as women go through. We know the struggle to even be able to stand out in society, right? And like be given opportunities, right? That normally we should have. So I think it's our responsibility to stand up for each other. Let's speak up for each other. Let's try to lift each other up in whatever little way we can. Like if you're given a particular platform, you can use that platform to help other women, or even in your very small circle at your place of work, speak up for people, for your female colleagues, just whatever little way you can. It doesn't have to even be a very grand gesture, but in like very little ways, just try to put a word out for your fellow women.
Yeah. Plangret, what's your thoughts on this?
Okay, it's actually a very loaded question, but because of the time, I think one thing women need to realize is that even though we're in an age of liberation where everybody is trying to talk about women rights and women empowerment, we actually live in a very in a society that has double standards, and for the most part has been very patriarchal. So in as much as people are talking about women need to do this and do that in their private lives, I don't know how many people really believe those kind of stuff. So the example in the question was political. And then with my background in the civil society, I know that even when people advocate for youth empowerment and for women empowerment, one of the things they always talk about is credibility. Because sometimes you also have a set of women who believe that just because I'm a woman or because I'm considered minority, then people should support me, which doesn't really work in that way. When you're breaking a system or you're trying to break a system, you need to actually do things. And sorry to say, sometimes to be twice as good. It's not fair, but unfortunately, that's how it works. Now, on the aspect of women being antagonistic to other women, that is very true, especially in the workspace. I've had to create excuses in my mind for so many people. And the truth is that it's something that we should aim to do at our own level. So to answer your question, yes, as a woman, you should begin to open spaces up for other women, especially when you see women who are really doing their best and they're contributing well. Because I think a lot of those issues with other women are just projections. So for instance, you see a younger lady and then she's doing well, she's married, she's balancing her career, and then sometimes it's just bringing out one trauma you had in your past. And then instead of supporting her, the best way you see to level or bring her down to size is to begin to antagonize her, which is very wrong. It's very terrible. I don't see men do this. Men are confident about what they know and what they don't know. So women need to do this to help each other more. But women also need to understand that you need to actually put in the work. Sometimes even doubly so, which is unfortunate and which we hope will change with time.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was loaded. Janet, what's your thoughts on this? On the question asked, yeah.
I missed the beginning of the question, but
yeah, okay. It's just basically the person is asking the issue of women being their own problem, that we're the bias we actually face, because we always, she cited a case example here where someone contested and lost at the primaries, and to her surprise, she realized that women didn't vote for her, even, and she was surprised. So she's asking that she just wants our opinion on what we think about women being the issue. And then I cited an example of a lady that I read as a story on Instagram, where she was bothered about the fact that her sister-in-law and her mother-in-law are the one actually demanding they take a child from her because she lost her husband. And she's saying, are these not the same set of people who are supposed to be sympathetic towards my case because they've been pregnant, they've given birth. So why should it be women that are actually at the forefront of taking my child from me? So I just cited that case to, corroborate our own, which is asking. So I'm asking for your opinion on this issue. What do you think, and how do you think we can do better in a situation like this?
Okay, well, I think I would probably have answered this differently if I was single, but married and with some wisdom from my husband and whatnot, and biblically, I think sometimes some people may do certain things and it's trying to find out why. I'm not sure if the first example felt because she's a woman, she's expecting other women to support her because, or was she a woman? Yeah. Was she a woman, or was she really the best in the competition?
You're right.
Or the second example, maybe it's just that they want to just give the child a better life, but obviously they should always incorporate the mom into that somehow. Don't just strip her of the child. I think sometimes, especially if we're talking about mental health, sometimes when people say things, you might take things to the extreme, and then how they kind of verbalize it to you and to the world may seem like, oh, these people are attacking me, but they're not. Like, I've even had some of those situations. My husband will kind of reevaluate the situation and be like, I don't think that's how it is. Your mind is just taking it there. So I would say definitely I echo, what my other co-panelists said. You want to be the light, the woman in the light in your corner. You want to be that woman that does stand up for what's right. But also don't think that because you're a woman, things are just against you. Like, yeah, against you. Yeah, just take account of all sides and then just put your best foot forward and you be that light that you want to see in the world.
I love the balance you brought into the conversation. Thank you so much for that. Wumi, do you have a few things to say on this issue? Are you there? Okay, I think maybe she has
Sorry.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Did you get the question? Okay. Or maybe she has a bit of network problems. I'm not sure what that is. But so we'll go on. The final question here, I don't know, we're still waiting for your questions. If you're here and you want to ask a question either by voice, raise up your just signal, and we'll let you speak. If you want to drop it by chat, drop it on the chat box. If you want to send it anonymously, send it directly to me. We'll be ready to answer you. If not, I'm just going to ask the last question that was asked, during the registration period. And that's on financial independence. So this person wants to know what the guest speaker's take is on being financially independent as a woman. So she's asking me from the point of view that is it okay for me to have my money and to save my money and not mix the money up with the family money? It's a very lengthy thing she wrote. Two persons actually asked that question. First person just said financial independence. The other person talked about, she believes in having a percentage of income going into the family's joint accounts and the other percentage for her to do whatever she wants to do with it. So she's just asking, she wants to know the guest speaker's take on being financially independent as a woman. So I'm going to start with Janet on that. What's your take on being financially independent? For me, I would love to say a few things before Janet speaks. For me, I think that a bit of a balance before the other guest speakers begin to talk on it. These two persons that asked this question, I see they are in Nigeria, and it's also very important for us, especially for us in the West, who are speaking, the guest speakers who are speaking from the West, to understand how maybe money is a very big issue in Nigeria. And a lot of women they feel incapacitated because they are not financially ready or okay, or they're not financially liberated, or whatever the word is. Because if we follow Instagram well, we see a lot of stories about women saying, "No, I would have left my home if it's not for finances," or "I'm going through domestic violence at home, but I can't leave because I have 3 kids and there's no way to." So I want us to have this in mind, that unlike the West, Nigeria is a place where people are really dealing with poverty, and a lot of people are in the same spot in their lives, no matter how damaging that spot is, just because they don't have the financial capacity to leave that spot. So when people ask these questions from Nigeria, it's not basically because, they just want to have money to flaunt the money. It's always because there is an underlying issue why they are asking this question. So it's very important for us to have this at the back of our minds when we're answering the question. So Janet, I'd love to know your take on this.
Awesome. I just want to say a disclaimer that although we're in the West, a lot of us grew up in Nigerian type households. So we can definitely relate to the Nigerian experience. I had a private conversation with you. My mom was a doctor in Nigeria, but she came here to the West. Through my dad's job, who's a doctor, physical therapist, and she knows how to get her own money. When my dad gives money, she adds a little bit on top, and then she has that money on her side, on the side. I'm not for separation of money in marriage. Actually, I think that can be very dangerous, especially if you want to leave. That guy can actually hold it against, over your head, because I was thinking maybe you start to save a little bit on the side, because to have an escape plan, to leave your husband one day, or whatever abuse is happening. But I would just say, just be very cautious of that. My approach to that would be prayerfully, just reach out to people that can help you with that escape plan, and you kind of don't entangle yourself with the money of whatever partner that you're in. But I would say, with financial independence, when you're married, I just encourage all wives to just have their names on everything, every property that's bought, every investment that's made. I just add my name. Boom. I just add my name, even if it's not a joint account. Boom, it's a joint account now. We're married. Boom. Sorry. I will book that appointment.
You are so right to that.
We'll go together and I'll put my name on it. Okay, thank you. And even if my name is not on it, because there was actually one transaction that they were like, my husband could not get a mortgage or something for one of our business purchases because my name was on it, and I'm a visa holder. So my name was taken off of it, fine, but I still have all the account information to log in and to check the transactions. And but you have to do this stylishly, you have to, like my panelist said, make sure you're on point when it comes to the intimate days, and make sure that the food is on point, because if those things are missing, it's not gonna work as well.
You are so right. She's so right. Thank you so much. I just need to say a story from what she said. There was a particular time my husband bought a property, and he was so excited. He came home and said, this just happened. I was like, that's fine. I'm so happy for you. Congratulations, and all of those things. And I honestly thought my name was on the document. So he then, handed the document to me. I opened it, and, my name was not there. So I was like, oh, that's fine. And then later on, he was like, well, you don't seem so excited. And then I told him, congratulations, you bought a property for yourself. I'm so glad you bought a property for yourself. So I kept emphasizing for yourself. And I was like, for yourself. Why are you saying for yourself? I said, it's for yourself. So I hugged him. I told him, I gave him a peg, keep going. And I did not have to say any other thing after that. A week after that, he brought the documents back to me, and my name had been added to the property. So you just need to be, like she said, do it stylishly, do it prayerfully. You don't need to, it's a non-issue. It's not something you need to now start fighting over. Because once you fight over something, especially with men, you are not going to have it your way, because they hate to be told what to do. They are not brought up to be told what to do. They are not wired to be told what to do. There are other ways we can, express our disappointment or express what we actually would love them to do, that you wouldn't even need to do, anything stressful, and they will get it done. So it's very, very important that we know our way around these things. Like Janet said, on the intimate days, bring your A game on. It's very important. So financial independence, what's your take, Margaret, on financial independence?
Okay. Hello again. So thank you.
And also, before you start talking about financial independence, you had something to add to your the last time you spoke. You can just say that before you move on to financial independence.
Okay, thank you, because both of them are connected anyways.
Okay.
And that's for me. I think when I answered the last question, I was thinking more in terms of women supporting women in the workplace. But then when you were talking, I realized that you talked about family dynamics and all that. In Nigeria, we have many cultures, even though there's some things that are similar across the board. And a lot of our cultural practices not many of them dignify the place of a woman. Like I was telling a colleague some time ago that there were some things that when we were in law school, we were made to understand, or when we were in undergrad, and that is that in customary law, women themselves are property. That's why women don't inherit, because you're gone, they're supposed to inherit you. So when it comes to a lot of these things, I think people need to go into marriages and they need to make decisions with a clear head and know where they're going. And I think that's why our parents, that's what they were aiming at when sometimes they tell us marry from this part of the country, marry from there, because they want you to get into a culture they understand and know what to expect. So women need to learn how to actually create safety nets and build for themselves. The whole conversation about finances, in a best case scenario, for instance, in a Christian marriage, I believe that in a poor or a proper Christian marriage, people should be able to be transparent about everything and money inclusive. So even if your money is not pooled together, because I know people have different ways they do this. Even if your money is not pooled together, you should know I have money. And in an emergency situation, you should be able to access it. Now, that used to be a very black and white thing for me until I have had people around me with very nasty experience about that. I have people who have husbands who are they're good men, but when it comes to money, they have a weakness. For some, it's family. Some people just don't know how to say no to pressure. So they can wreck all your finances just because they cannot say no to people outside. And people have different experiences. So in that kind of case, if I'm not advising this lady that, oh, you people should be pulling your money together, I don't think I'm being fair to that person. But in any case, whatever you're doing, you should be able to have some sort of independence, because I think that's what the questions were about. They were knowing whether it's right, absolutely right for you to have that. Money in itself is not a big deal. It just communicates value and it gives you some sort of independence. And I think that if your partner does not want you to have that, I'm not a trained psychologist, but it's like indicative of some sort of abuse. If the person is dead set against you, now the person may say that the way you're going about it, I'm not comfortable. For instance, for those of us that are in some kind of demanding careers, I know women who have made the decision or their partners have expressed their displeasure with the amount of time they're taking away. And they're saying, oh, because I'm raising, I'm going to have a slower pay. But that's different from the person telling you cannot have money of your own. Because that, to me, that is just like classic abuse in one form or the other. So you should be able to do something that gets you money. You should be able to meet needs. There's a dignity that comes when you're able to pay for something yourself, when you're able to get something when you need it. I also don't think people should use it as some sort of warfare strategy, because I was talking to that. I said he does not understand how we do relationship these days. It's as if it's some kind of mind game thing. Like, I want to outsmart you. This one wants to outsmart you.
Competition within you. Yeah.
So I don't think it should be about that. But you should be able to have some property. You should be able to have some things. I think you should have a portfolio for yourself. You should have a portfolio for your family. But in all of that, you should be able to communicate with your partner, and you should be able to be on the same page. If your partner married a stay-at-home mom who never did any business, and that is the standard for a wife, you should marry that kind of person. If your dad was the kind that used to do 100% in the house, and that is your standard for a husband, please marry that kind of person. Don't go and marry a career woman and come and tell her to come and sit down in the house, or don't do those. Those are important conversations you need to have. And if they are becoming issues after you get married, then you should really get help and you should solve those issues, because money is a big deal for many marriages. So apart from that, there are legal protection you should have. Please, you people should go and do registry marriage if you've not done. I always feel the need to say this. Please have legal protection for yourself. Like this woman that's talking about people taking her children away. It's not everybody needs to do that one. That's just the truth. Even if you're married into family and after marriage you discover some things are going on, you need to protect yourself legally. I see that people have even gone beyond having wills to having trust, so that if something happens, there's a trustee who is in charge of, especially in large families where there are contentions. So the trustees come and then administer everything and make sure everybody gets their fair deal. If you have children, they should have educational plans. You should have different things to help you to do that. Basically, if you didn't have a customary marriage, why should somebody come based on their culture or their customs and take your children away? And by the way, when you go to court, those things don't stand because they're repugnant to natural justice. So as a woman, you need to know your rights legally. You need to have them. Hopefully you don't use them, but you should know how to protect yourself. And you should place value on yourself. I heard someone say that have you ever gone to somebody say the price of 1,000 naira, and then the person buying it comes and says, oh, these people are also paying 5,000. Most likely people price you down. So if you don't have a value on yourself, or you don't have value on what you're worth, even though money is not directly connected to what you're worth, but if you don't have standards, basically, people will just come and toss you any which way.
Thank you so much. I mean, in some few minutes, you've talked about different things all at the same time, and they're very important things you've talked about. I don't know if Wumi is ready now to talk. Are you there? What's your thoughts on financial independence as we're wrapping up? And then Tolu would say us, and then there are no other questions. So I think this is the last question. Wumi, are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Your thoughts on financial independence as a woman?
I believe as a woman, it's very important. It's really, really important. It's a friend of mine here. We used to say, my husband's money is our money. My money is my my money. We used to say that very well. Maybe your money is our money. My money is my money. Yeah, it's really important. Like, it's in one way, it gives husband dignity, because I can remember sometimes that maybe my husband forget to send money to our parents, and sometimes I do that while he does not know. And next time he calls his mother said, "Hi, your wife sent me money." And she was like, seriously, are people forgotten? Like, okay, babe, where did you get this money from? It's my money. I don't worry about that. Your own money is our money. So it's very important as women. Let's get things doing for ourselves. In one way, it also give us pride. Like, okay, you can settle one or two things that even if your husband has it, you can settle one or two things at home. You don't have to wait, babe, baby, I have to wait for you. The waterman is around. I have to pay for water. Like, you understand? In one way, we have to stand up for ourselves. Like, yes, it's really important. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Tolu, what's your take? Tolu Aleye, what's your take on being financially?
The other panelists have literally said almost everything, like practically everything, but I'm just going to add this by saying that there's something called risk management, right? Is planning for unforeseen circumstances and trying to have like a game plan for it, because as much as we want everything in life to go perfectly well, bad things happen. My mom, for example, lost my dad when I was just 2 years old, and if she wasn't financially independent, please, what would have happened, right? And she had four children to take care of, and she never remarried. So I think it's very advisable for everyone to be financially independent. Anything can happen. The man can lose his job. Anything can happen. So I think it's very important for you to be, as a woman, to be financially independent, have what you're doing, do something, and yeah.
I love the angle from which you spoke. I mean, not even because you are looking at getting away, or if there is a situation for your own. Okay, Mrs. Janet said life insurance here in the West. Yeah, so you need to, you just need to be financially independent to be able to get something for yourself, just in case. We're not praying for bad things to happen, or even your husband can lose his job, or he may have a bit of a downtime during a period of time. You should be able to step in with something. So finally, Tolu Aleye, what would you love to say as a closing remark to women listening, or who would listen later on with the recording? What would you like to say to young women in their 30s, late 30s, early 30s, late 20s, on just anything that's, through the conversation that has dropped in your mind that you'd love to tell them, you can go ahead to say. Okay, can you unmute yourself?
Okay, yes. I just realized I was muted. So in summary, I would like to say that from all that we've learned, get in communities. Like, we as women, we actually go through a lot, and I think being on this session, I've learned so much. Like, I'm just newly married, so I've not experienced many of the things other panelists have spoken about, but I've learned a truckload. So I think it's important to have a community of women where you all share the same values, share similar values. And I think it's also important to have a mentor, or have mentors. Really, they might not even do the exact same thing as you do. They will help you, like, they could help in your family life, in your business, like, from different angles. So I think it's also good to have, like, mentors that you can speak with, or you can go to and ask for help. Then I think it's also important to set yourself up for opportunities. Say yes to opportunities that will help you grow and help you stretch yourself. And it's also important for you to know that as a woman, you are so powerful. You are powerful. Like, we can multitask. We can do so many things at the same time. Where our bodies have been built to do so many things and take in so much. So know that because you're a woman, you are capable of doing so many things through Christ. So know that. Stop undermining yourself. Stop undervaluing yourself, right? And lastly, I'll say, in whatever process you find yourself, whatever stage you find yourself, it might be tough, it might be hard. Just know that it's not going to last. Like, things are going to be better. Just enjoy the process. Get whatever you can get from that particular stage. And yes, hopefully we can all.
Thank you so much for being on this. I mean, I am blown away by the work you're doing. You're young, you're amazing, you're thriving. This is the example we want for our women. We want women to, set goals, achieve their goals, and, shine, do everything you want to do. You can be whatever you want to be. There are no limitations to you. There are no limitations based on your gender. You can learn anything you want to learn. There's no male, this one is male dominated career, nothing like that. You can, whatever you set your mind to do, you can do it and achieve it while you're a mother, where there's no period or phase in the life of a woman that you cannot set goals and achieve them. So don't be limited by nothing. Thank you so much, Oluwaye. I appreciate you being on this platform, and I'm so grateful to you for dedicating your time. I mean, it's been a long time, almost 3 hours. Thank you so much. God bless you. I hope we partner on some other things.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So I would love to know, Plangret, your closing remark.
Okay, thank you everyone for staying with us so far and for listening to us. I just want to encourage everyone here to have a strong sense of identity. For me, my advice would always be that it should be rooted in God, first of all, because society and so many things will try to police your life and put standards on you. Some are not realistic, some are not even fair, some are discriminatory. But you should know who you are, stand by who you are, and know that you have value. And when you have value, you will live a life of value and you will translate it to other people. I need you to also know that you're important as much as other people are important. So in as much as there's a lot of beauty in womanhood and in being feminine, it doesn't also mean that you need to be weak or you need to be pushover. So I pray God will help each and every one of us to thrive in everything we do. Thank you very much, Debbie.
Thank you so much, Plangret. I'm so glad you came on this. I mean, you brought in different angles, and I know it's just because of the constraint of time. You are loaded. I appreciate you. I know we even had a bit of a challenge. You weren't sure if you were going to, you had something clashing with today, but I'm so glad you were able to make it and you stayed all through the session. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Keep shining, keep thriving. We're looking up to you. We're all going to meet at the top. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Closing remark, Wumi. Give your closing remark. Rahila, thank you so much. You're saying it's been an awesome time. I appreciate you joining. Thank you so much. Wumi, give your closing remark. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. I just want to encourage every mom, every wife that is here, that the strength of God would continually be given to us. I want to encourage us that God has made us who we are, and everything that is needed for us to go through this process, He will continually to give us in Jesus' name. I want to say good work to every mom that is here, and for every single lady that is here, I want to say enjoy your singlehood. Like really enjoy it to the fullest. Enjoy it. Learn all what you have to learn, build yourself, and I pray God will settle you in that aspect in Jesus' name.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming and joining us on this. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for sharing your experience. I appreciate you. I do not take you for granted. Thank you so much. Janet, your closing remark?
Wow, I just loved everything from singlehood, how to maximize it, to child rearing, loving our child in the way God's gifts to us. They're not a burden, they're God's gifts, even when they may be on our nerves. Yeah, just thank you all for all being here. And I just pray that we implement all that we've learned and we don't overstress ourselves mentally, physically. And yeah, the best person to invest is ourselves. And keep on investing you and being the godly gift that God made you. You're still existing space on this earth for a reason. Yeah.
Thank you so
Occupying
much,
space on
Janet.
this
I
earth for a
appreciate you
reason.
for your time. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. I know, you're busy, you're a busy mom and everything, but you still took out time to be here. I do not take you for granted. Thank you so much. God bless you for coming on this session with us. Love you, sis. Take care of yourself and my love to your kids. I want to also use this opportunity to appreciate every single person that joined. Some came, some have gone, the 20-something people that joined us in this Zoom session. Oh, Amara is raising her hands. Right. Okay. Can you unmute your mic and speak, please? Amara, please unmute your mic. You raised up your hands. Okay. Or maybe it was a mistake, actually. Okay, so I want to appreciate everyone who's been on this session from the beginning to the end, and even those who came and left, maybe because of time or they had to do something else. Thank you so much. I appreciate every one of us. Thank you so much. God bless you and have a wonderful night rest. Thank you. Bye. Bye.